Long time no see, everyone. It's Return of the Genghis John in another X-Wing Miniatures theory crafting video. Life's been crazy lately trying to get ready for school back in session as a teacher, but I've played some X-Wing on the TTS and one ship has really impressed me in the last several events I've played in. Old ship, new faction, it's the Republic Y-Wing. The Y-Wing was pretty popular in 1.0 with Rebel Stresspot TLTs, Thug Life build, and Auto Blaster Caval. Rebel and Scum wise in 2.0 with maybe Nora as an exception feel really underwhelming since their major 1.0 upgrades have been taken away. But the Republic faction has breathed new life into the ship with a cool new model, ship ability, and a fresh batch of unique pilots. In this episode, rather than looking at one pilot in several different lists, I'm actually going to break down every pilot in the Republic Y-Wing in its optimal build. Some pilots are decent, others are straight up ugly, yet there are a couple very strong pilots that you can confidently take into battle and have success with. So without further ado, let's look at the chassis. The Republic Y-Wing chassis is pretty similar to its Rebel and Scum counterparts. It has a 2-dice primary attack, 1 agility, focus, target lock, red barrel roll, and red reload actions, and can be outfitted with a turret, torpedo, gunner, mech, payload, and modification upgrades. And while it has its crappy 1.0 dial with only 2 blue maneuvers, it does what a Y-Wing does best, better. It survives. This is because not only does it have a 5-3 hull shield ratio instead of a 6-2 ratio, but the plated hull ship ability all but completely negates the bane of slow, low agility ships, crits. Plated hull reads, while you defend if you are not critically damaged, change one crit result into a hit result. Unless your opponent rolls multiple crit results in a single attack, your Y-Wing will not take crit damage. Now keep in mind the ship can still be critted by an obstacle or a device, but this is still a fairly rare occurrence. There is no getting around it, the dial is awful. But this is easily overcome by R4 Astromech, which turns all of your 1 and 2 speed maneuvers into blues, dramatically changing the dial from the game's worst to a real asset, considering the ship has 2 red actions and 3 red maneuvers. R4 is almost at must-include status, and with a very few exceptions, should be the only Astromech you consider pairing with your Y-Wings. On to the builds. Most ships we look at as individual builds rather than as components of a full list, though we will look at a couple 4 to 5 ship Y-Wing only lists. So starting with the lowest costed pilot, the Red Squadron Bomber. Low initiative ships like the Y-Wing are best used as bombers rather than as torp carriers, but if you're not bringing big guns, then you need more ships for damage output and a means for dealing damage in addition to attacks. So in this build we have the R4 mech for some much needed blue maneuvers, a dorsal turret to keep aces from outflanking the squad, and proton bombs and delayed fuses, all of which comes out at 39 points. This seems like a real bargain, and at this cost you can fit in 5 ships with some extra room to spare. I prefer protons to other payload upgrades, especially on Y-Wing since they can reload, but you can easily swap protons for prox mines and still fit 5 ships. You're looking at a 40 health list that is mostly immune to crits, has extra arcs, and can drop bombs. Sign me up for a good time. The next pilot truly has the worst ability in the game of X-Wing. Goji is Initiative 2, just like the Red Squad Bomber, but what's embarrassing is that he is the same cost as a generic, yet has an additional ability. While a friendly ship at range 0 to 3 defends, it may roll 1 additional defense die for each friendly bomb at 0 to 1 of it. This is a shadow of Scumdim's 1.0 ability, which did not need nerfing, and FFG has realized that this is a trash ability worth 0 points. To really make use of this, you have to drop a bomb, and you are limited to bombs, no mines. Use a fuse on it, hard turn to stay within range, and then waste an action barrel rolling into range of your bomb. Since Goji doesn't cost anything extra, you can drop him into a Red Squadron bomber list and not really lose anything. But let's say we've made the Ultimate Republic build and we have 35 points to wipe our ass with, for argument's sake. Dorsal because it's cheap, delayed fuses because you have to, and seismic charges because it doesn't actually hurt you if you drop it outside of range 1 of an obstacle. This isn't actually good. Don't fly Goji. Now that that's over, we can graduate to the Initiative 3 Shadow Squadron Veteran. This is actually the pilot that inspired me to do this particular episode. Norman Rolick flew 3 Shadow Squadrons with Broadside, which fit at exactly 200 points, and Idea Squad Summer TTS League, sitting second after Swiss and getting a top 8 finish, losing to a list that was specifically teched against his. The same list is actually 3 points cheaper now, giving it a bit of an edge against other spam lists by either determining rock placement first or ideal turn 0 positioning. Each ship is equipped the same way with ion turret, R4, hold upgrade, proton bombs, and skilled bombardier. Ions and bombs are such a good combo, and 36 health is a bunch to chew through, especially with the crit mitigation. That brings us up to Broadside, who is arguably the best Republic Y-Wing pilot, certainly the best for his cost. The Strafe King's ability reads, while you perform a turret attack, if your turret indicator is in your port side or starboard arc, you may change one blank result to an eye result. Changing a blank into a focus is a great soft mod, so all you really need to worry about is getting a focus action and keeping your turret on target. Towards the latter end, a sensible upgrade for Broadside is Agile Gunner, who allows you to switch the turret from one side arc to the other for free. Of course, you want a turret, and R4 is a good buy to keep Broadside stress-free, but other than that, hull upgrade and proton bombs are completely optional upgrades. Really, Agile Gunner is too, since you should be flying in a wide circle around the action and keep everything in arc without switching back and forth too much. This build at only 50 points is about as great as money can buy for a Y-Wing. And even though he's only Initiative 3, he's got enough health to survive a few rounds of combat, which you can use to ionize your target and put them in a really compromising position. Everyone's favorite astromech, R2-D2 makes an appearance as a pilot, opening up a crew slot in place of the standard mech upgrade. R2's pilot ability reads, at the start of the engagement phase, if there is an enemy ship in your rear arc, gain 1 calculate token. Now, with the crew upgrade, we would be remiss if we didn't pair R2 with his better half, C-3PO. Republic 3PO is probably the strongest in the game. In addition to gaining 2 calculates when you perform a calculate action, he allows for defensive rerolls while calculating. So between 2 calculates from an action and a free calculate for an enemy behind R2, you have a lot of calculate tokens to spend on a shot, for green dice rerolls, and for spending on defensive rolls. Ion Turret is going to let you control where enemy ships go, lining up rear arc line of sight if you desire. But if you have 7 points, you could also add Skilled Bombardier and Proton Bombs to completely decimate anyone who chases. The R2-3PO combo is admittedly probably more cute than good, but if you like thematic builds like me, I think this ship could be a lot of fun. Now getting into more of the heavy hitters, next we have a Matchstick coming in at Initiative 4 with another soft mod ability. While you perform a primary or turret attack, you may reroll one attack die for each red token you have. Players have found a way to abuse this ability so that Matchstick has maximum rerolls without any of the negative consequences of a red token. Turn 1, have all of your other ships target lock Matchstick. It's a red token, and they can stay there as long as you like without any consequence to Matchstick. So as for wingmates, bring ships that don't need to take target locks and can focus on, well, focusing or repositioning. Matchstick's ability only works on primary and turret attacks, so again we bring Ion Turret. Before the latest points change, many players equipped Matchstick with VTG, but now that is 12 points for a small base ship, I think that is too expensive for what it's worth. Since Matchstick likes red tokens, he doesn't mind stress as much, and we can get him double mods after becoming stressed when a generic ship doesn't get any mods. Matchstick has an astromech match made in heaven, R4 P44. After you fully execute a red maneuver, if there is an enemy ship in your bullseye, gain 1 calculate token. So with the red maneuver, you get a stress, the red token you need for rerolls, and the enemy in bullseye gives you a soft focus mod to also apply to your Ion Turret shot. Elusive EPT makes the red maneuver even more potent, recovering a defensive reroll ability. So what is usually a hindrance to the Y-Wing is now sort of a Matchstick trifecta: offensive reroll, calculate, and a defensive reroll. Oddball pilots 4 ships for the Republic, including the V-19 Torrent, Arc Starfighter, Y-Wing, and the new V-Wing. His ability is the same across the board. After you execute a red maneuver or perform a red action, if there is an enemy ship in your bullseye, you may acquire a lock on that ship. Being at Initiative 5 and his ability granting a target lock, I think Oddball really wants to be the leader of an Ordnance Alpha Strike. So we can equip him with cheaper plasma torpedoes, let him shoot first and strip shields, but also he can help the rest of his squad knock through damage with Clone Commander Cody Gunner, which reads, after you perform an attack that missed, if 1 or more hit or crit results were neutralized, the defender gains 1 strain token. So even if the initial attack misses, Oddball still sets up the next guy by giving the target a strain, reducing agility for the next attack. Cody is a solid value at 4 points, so I like Cody for the middle to end game, especially after Oddball runs out of torps. Dorsal Turret is a completely optional upgrade, but for 2 points it gives you an extra arc to avoid being outflanked. Marksmanship is probably a bit greedy, especially since on Plasma Torps crits get cancelled first, but it pairs well with Oddball's pilot ability. A really juicy pairing for Oddball, though, is R4P17, which says after you fully execute a red maneuver, you may spend 1 charge to perform an action, even while stressed, and comes with 2 charges. This sets Oddball up with either a double modded attack after a red maneuver with a free target lock and focus action granted by the mech, or it can help Oddball trigger his ability after missing the bullseye mark after movement, giving him the opportunity to barrel roll into bullseye despite completing a red maneuver, despite performing a red action, all in the same turn. I think you could also really catch your opponent off guard with a red force straight maneuver into a target lock to force a first engagement they might not be prepared for. R4P44 is also not a bad pairing with Oddball, giving him 2 mods for achieving bullseye arc after a red maneuver. The last Y-Wing pilot, the best and definitely most expensive at a whopping 55 points, is Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's ability is the same as when flying the Delta 7, which is honestly a pretty meh ability, but it is less meh in a Y-Wing with additional red maneuvers and less blue maneuvers to clear stress. Anakin can really be decked out as much or as little as you want, but at the very least, with 3 Force and coming in at Initiative 6, he is begging to bring proton torpedoes and just wreck the enemy's face. As a Y-Wing is not the most maneuverable ship, especially compared to the Delta 7, R2A6 gives Anakin a quasi-reposition ability, allowing him to change his dial slightly after he sees everyone else move, which can also maybe help him avoid getting blocked. Invest in hull upgrade as insurance for your most valuable asset on the table. Instinctive aim isn't the worst upgrade for Anakin, costing only one of his 3 force charges and allowing him to launch a 4 dice attack when he otherwise couldn't get the target lock for whatever reason. Dorsal turret and proton bombs as points allow. Even though Anakin has the same initiative and force charge value as when flying the Delta 7, this is a completely different ship, and thus Anakin fulfills a very different role flying the Y-Wing. Rather than play cat and mouse arc dodging the enemy, Y-Wing Anakin has to use his force charges and torpedoes to actually destroy the enemy, not just get half points on one ship and regen and run. The difference is really playstyle, but be aware that the more points you dump into Anakin, the more work he has to do to trade up. Even though fully built out I have him at 85 points, he may be better at a lower 71 with just torps and hull upgrade. Okay, so I hope this video has convinced you to go out and fly some Y-Wings. I truly feel that the Republic Y is the best version of the ship in the game, with an overall improved chassis and more diverse pilots and pilot abilities. I really think that all of them, with the exception of Goji, can find success in competitive play in their ideal build. Fly the Ys, let me know what you think, what you're finding out in playtesting, and leave a comment in the video. I also hope you'll consider liking this video and subscribing to Idea Squadron for more theory crafting content and gameplay videos. Join me on the next episode where I discuss the Confederacy of Independent Systems Spam Text build, and I hope to have a guest with me on that episode. This is Genghis John. Stay safe, and may the Force be with you.